Squatch Senior back here, getting back onto the M project a little bit. Next project, I was hoping to get at this oil pump, but due to circumstances, I needed to order some cutters and stuff for the milling machine before I get into that. So I figured what I could do waiting for that stuff is we'll get started into the head. I got a new set of valves, new springs, keepers, everything I need to do that. So first thing I'm going to do with that is I'll put the valves, I kind of like even new valves, I'll put them in the valve refacer and just check them just to make sure I don't have any warpage or anything like that. So now that spring is here, snow's melting, that's been taking a lot of my time getting chores done outside. So kind of a gloomy little rainy day the last couple days, so I'll get back on this. It'll keep me busy anyway. So let's get started on these valves. Okay, here we are at the face grinder. Got this thing all cleaned up, oiled, ready to go. First thing I'm going to do is run the stone dresser across the stone, make sure it's square and all that stuff. Get this ready to set up for doing valves. So let's square the stone up and clean her up a little. You don't need to take much off, but it does a nice job of cleaning that up. So we'll get it set up and start doing the valve. Okay, here I'm set up at the face grinder. We'll give this one a test and see what it looks like. Now when you're grinding too, you want to make sure you use the full face of your stone all the way across so you wear all even. You just don't want to hit one part stuff. But every 3-4 valves, depends how much I'm grinding, I'll redress the stone. Right now we probably won't have to do it, maybe just 1 or 2 times. These are looking really good so far. So let's go through, we'll get the rest of these done and see what they look like. Okay, I've got 2 intake valves left to do. What I'll usually do is I crank it up. I got just a little brush here with some cutting oil in. I'll put on the face of that and we'll just touch her up and see what we look like. Like I say, 2 intakes left and I'll be done with this part. Looking good. That one turned out good. Had one exhaust, a little bit extra grinding. You could hear it go ch-ch-ch-ch in there. These last 2, you could tell we had an even grind all the way around. So for the most part, we got some usable valves. Next up, we're going to start doing the seats on this head. I've got my stone dresser, stones, mandrels, and my drive motor all set up ready to go here. And what I do on these is I generally do a 3-angle seat. And I did drop some stuff here. Hopefully we can see and understand what I'm up to. Anyway, my 3-angle seat, I do a 45, a 30, and a 60. Now what that ends up, we'll just kind of straighten it out here. The 30 degree is towards the inside. This here is towards the exhaust or intake side of the manifold. But anyway, my 45 degree will be this narrow slot right there. And I generally shoot like for a 60 to a 3/32 seat surface. Some guys will do just a 30 and a 45. And my theory for my 3-angle seat is if you do a 30 and a 45, your bottom of your seat is going to be kind of jagged. And to me, you're going to get uneven cooling of the valve, possibly valve warpage or whatever, because as these things go up and down with the narrower seat, they have a tendency to kind of mushroom in and create a little bit better seat there. And what I'll usually do is on the valve is I'll shoot probably from the center to up a little bit to get my seat in there. So anyway, some guys have done, and you can sometimes find it in the manuals, 45 on the seat and a 44 on the face of the valve. My face grinder is set up with the indicator 45 and 44 on that, so that tells me that has been a past practice in the past. So anyway, I'll show you that little bit on the face grinder, and then we'll start with the grinding of the seats. I've set up shop outside here. When you're dressing stones and even grinding, you get a lot of fine grit and stuff flying around. Don't want that in some of the projects that's going on inside the shop. Actually, it's kind of a nice day out here, so I figured it'd be a good job to get done outside. Got everything set up. Got my grinder or stone dresser set up on the sawhorse. I just mounted a piece of plywood, clamped her down. It's good and sturdy. So anyway, get started. I'm going to start with the intakes first. We'll get a couple, and I'm going to redo the stone on the stone dresser and probably just hit the stone before I even get started to make sure it's square. So let's get started. Stone's all dressed, nice 45. Let's put her on the head and see what she does. Intakes are done. Got the stone dress for the exhaust. I had to go to a little bit smaller stone to fit so I don't take out the edges here. And also I should mention when you're grinding, you just let the weight of your machine do the grinding. Don't bear down on it. You'll start getting chatter and stuff like that. So let's get started on these exhaust. Okay, the 45s are done. Definitely needed some grinding. There was some pitting, some out of round, stuff like that, but for the most part looking good. Not sure how this valve job was done in the past, but it seems like we cleaned up with some awful wide seats. But anyway, next up is the 30-degree angle on all of these. Got the 30 degree all done on all. It turned out good. Not sure if you guys can really see the transition from 45 to the 30, but it all looks really good. It's good sharp transition, and everything cleaned up pretty decent. Next up is the 60. We'll bring the bottom up a little bit, and then after that we'll start getting the seat size established. Okay, I've got the initial grinding done. Started with the 45s, did the 30s, and finished with the 60-degree stones. Hopefully you can see, I can see the transitions. Might be really tough showing up on film. Next thing we're going to do is get our seat width established here. And some of these look fairly close, some are pretty wide, so I'll get into that next. Okay, to check out my seat width, I generally use just a plain piece of chalk. Just do light lines around the face of the valve. You don't need them real heavy. So put it in, give it a little bit of a spin, and see what we end up with. Okay, for the most part, it's not too bad. Maybe a little high, but I do like the pattern. Looking at the seat in there, it doesn't look too bad, but just to do a double, I like to do it twice just to verify. Yeah, to me, I'm just a hair wide where I like it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a 30-degree stone and just bring it down just a little bit. It's pretty close to the area I like it, but it's just, to me, a little bit wide. Just take your time with these. You don't have to get in a hurry. The sun's starting to affect my camera stuff here, but for the most part, a little light and bring her down a little more. Okay, I kind of like that. I'm going to leave her right there. Anyway, I'll go through, finish up the rest of these, and get back with you after I'm done. That's my procedure, and that's why I like a 3-angle seat. Gives you a nice seat area. And as I finish, I might kind of leave the valves in the holes that I know they were done. So do up the intakes first. That's what I'm set up for. Finish up with the exhausts. Grinding's all done. Everything checked out good. So the next step we got to do is clean this head up. We'll do it inside, outside. Got some buffing to do on the outside too before we finish putting this thing together. So anyway, next step, clean her up. Okay, got the head all cleaned up. Used my regular cleaning procedure there. I pretty much had her already. I did a purple power bath previously. I didn't go through that process, but cleaned all the grindings and stuff out of it. And I took some Dawn dish soap and stuff, washed her down, buffed her up, had some paint stuff left, so I got this ready to start installing the valves. Here I've got all my valves set up, all ready to be installed, all cleaned and everything. So oil can, what I do with that, this does have a rotator on the exhaust. I make sure that's oiled up good. I oil the stems, I'll probably oil the head and everything else. Anyway, that's going to help keep everything from rusting up. When you put these together, valve in first, and then they got what they call a valve keeper. Little clip here, that goes into just that groove in the valve right there. Now these do not have oil seals on them. Nothing in the parts book, nothing coming in gasket sets, and there was nothing in it when I took it apart. I have my reservations on that, but this seems to work on this type of engine. If you guys got any comments on that, be happy to hear them. So let's get this thing oiled up and we'll start installing these valves. Okay, everything's all oiled up, ready to go in. Got a light coating on the valve. We'll slide that in. Next we'll install this valve keeper. Coated the spring with a light coat of oil and got the rotator for the exhaust lubed up as well. Get the tool all adjusted up. Spring compressed. We'll get the keepers in. Usually put the bottom one in first, that way the spring will kind of hold it up. Slide the top one in and we'll release it. All set to go. There we go, spring centered. So anyway, we're going to go through, we'll get the rest of these installed, then we'll come back and see what she looks like after I get them all put in. We've got the last valve, one intake left to go. And whatever residual oil I got in my gloves, I'll just kind of do the spring up a little bit, valve cap. Just get a little oil and stuff. Okay, all the valves installed. And let's have a look at it and see what she looks like. Everything is looking good on the top side here. And everything is looking good on this combustion side too. So anyway, one more little thing I'll show you what I do before I finish this up. And I'll get her turned around and give that a demonstration. Well, the last thing to complete this, what I usually do is I'll take a mallet and I'll just tap them. Make sure the keepers are all seated real good. You don't need to beat on them. Okay, nothing popped out at me. And I'm pretty satisfied with it. So anyway, that's this head's ready to install.